A 7-year-old boy begged to help his disabled mother, but gets confused when he sees her walking and entering a luxury bakery. John, a boy of only 7 years old, was sitting with a worn cardboard sign in his small, dirty hands. His big, expressive eyes stared at the hurried faces passing by, each with their own concerns, rarely stopping to notice the boy begging to survive. John had a noble reason to be there. A few weeks ago, a tragic car accident completely changed his family's life. His mother, Chloe, lost the use of her legs. The accident, caused by the recklessness of her husband, Daniel, resulted not only in Chloe's disability, but also in the dissolution of their marriage. Unable to cope with the guilt and responsibility, Daniel abandoned Chloe, leaving her alone to care for John. The image of his father leaving home was still fresh in John's mind. He remembered his cold words, "I didn't marry a paraplegic." Those words echoed in his head, driving him to take on the responsibility of caring for his mother. John knew that surgery could restore Chloe's mobility, but the cost was exorbitant and they had no resources. Determined, John decided to ask for money on the busy streets of the city. He made a simple but moving sign that read, "Help my mother walk again." The writing was childish, with crooked and hesitant letters, but the message was clear. With each coin that fell into his can, John felt a mix of hope and gratitude. The days were long and tiring. John saw the kindness in some people who passed by and left a few coins, sometimes even bills. The busy street where he sat was a microcosm of the city, with people of all ages and backgrounds rushing by. He learned to recognize the kind faces and the quick steps of those who preferred to ignore him. John's routine began early. He helped his mother get ready in the morning, preparing a simple breakfast and making sure she was comfortable before leaving. Chloe, despite her situation, always tried to encourage John with a smile and kind words, saying that things would get better one day. The small house they lived in was full of memories of better times. Family photos hung on the walls showed a smiling, active, and happy Chloe. The drastic change in their lives was a heavy burden for everyone, but John felt an enormous responsibility on his small shoulders. In the weeks following the accident, John learned to be resilient. He developed a routine on the streets, carefully choosing the places where he would ask for help. His mother's hopeful gaze was the driving force that kept him going, even when the fatigue and hunger seemed unbearable. Each day ended with John returning home with what he had collected. Chloe welcomed him with a warm hug, thanking him for his efforts. Together, they counted the coins, dreaming of the day they would have enough for the surgery. Despite so many difficulties, John never lost hope. He believed that with time, everything would get better. And so, day after day, he continued his journey, determined to do everything he could to help his mother walk again. John's days on the streets were a mix of exhaustion and hope. The routine began early, and he knew that each coin he collected was a step closer to helping his mother. One morning, while he was sitting with his cardboard sign, an 18-year-old girl named Mary passed by. Mary worked at a nearby bakery, and that day her heart was touched by the sight of the little boy begging with such a noble purpose. Mary watched John for a few days, noticing his determination and the gentle way he approached people. He never begged or pressured, he simply waited patiently for someone to approach. Determined to do something more significant, Mary approached John on a sunny morning. "Hi, my name is Mary. What's your name?" she asked with a gentle smile. John looked at her, surprised by the friendly approach. "I'm John," he replied shyly. Mary crouched down to be at John's height. "I've seen you here every day. Why are you asking for money?" she asked, already knowing the answer but wanting to hear it from John's own mouth. John took a deep breath and replied, "My mother, Chloe, had a car accident a few weeks ago. She can't walk and needs an expensive surgery. I'm trying to help raise money for that." Mary's eyes filled with tears upon hearing John's story. Feeling an immediate connection with the boy, she decided she needed to do more. "John, I work at a bakery nearby. Maybe we can find a way to help you more than just with a few coins. Would you like to come with me there?" Mary asked. John nodded, not really knowing what to expect. He followed Mary to the bakery, a cozy place with the sweet smell of freshly baked bread and cakes. Upon entering, John was amazed by the variety of sweets and the warm atmosphere. Mary took John to a corner table and offered him a piece of chocolate cake and a soda. John, hungry, accepted gratefully and began to eat. While John ate, Mary took the opportunity to talk to her boss, Grace, on the phone. She stepped away a little to give John some privacy and explained the situation in detail. "Grace, I found a boy on the street who is raising money for his mother's surgery. He's so small and doing all this alone. I thought we could help him somehow." On the other end of the line, Grace listened attentively. She had always been a generous and empathetic person. "Mary, that's touching. How can we help?" "I was thinking we could give him some sweets to sell. He can keep all the money he raises," Mary suggested. Grace reflected for a moment and, with a firm tone, replied, "Yes, of course. Bring him here and let's organize everything." Mary hung up the phone and returned to the table where John was finishing his meal. "John, I talked to my boss, Grace. She is very generous and always willing to help. I told her about you and your mother, and she agreed to let you sell some of our sweets. You can keep all the money you raise. What do you think?" Mary explained. John was surprised by the generous offer. He had never thought of selling sweets, but the idea seemed promising. "I'd love to, Mary. Thank you very much," John said, feeling a new breath of hope. Mary and John spent the afternoon preparing everything. They made a new sign together, more colorful and attractive, that said, "Buy sweets to help my mother walk again." Mary taught John about the different types of sweets and how to present them to customers. The next morning, John was back on the streets, but this time with a box of sweets and his new sign. People approached, curious and moved by the story the sign told. The sales began to grow quickly, and John felt that he was finally making real progress. At the end of the first day, John returned home with the box almost empty and his heart full of joy. He told his mother about Mary's generosity and the opportunity to sell sweets. Chloe cried with joy upon hearing the story. She couldn't believe that strangers were willing to help so much. Mary's support was a sign that there was still kindness in the world. In the days that followed, John continued to sell the sweets enthusiastically. Mary visited him frequently, bringing more sweets and encouraging him to keep going. Grace, always busy with the bakery, made sure to ask about the sales and Chloe's health through Mary. John and Chloe's lives began to change for the better. With the money from the sales, they were a step closer to affording the necessary surgery. And most importantly, John had found unexpected allies willing to fight alongside him. The future seemed a little brighter, and John felt that with Mary and Grace's help, he could achieve the impossible and help his mother walk again. The sun was high in the sky, bathing the busy street of the city in its bright light. John was in his usual spot, selling sweets with the new sign Mary had helped him make. The movement was constant, and he was starting to recognize some frequent faces. Each sweet sold was another step towards achieving his mother's much-dreamed-of surgery. That particular day, John was focused on his sales when something suddenly caught his attention. A tall, elegant woman with brown hair similar to his mother's walked by him and entered the bakery where Mary worked. John blinked a few times in disbelief. The woman was identical to his mother, Chloe. Feeling his heart race, John decided to follow the woman. He grabbed his box of sweets and walked to the bakery, trying not to lose sight of her. Upon entering the shop, the sweet and welcoming aroma of bread and cakes enveloped him. but he was focused on something else. Finding the woman who had just entered. The woman was sitting on a bench near the counter, talking to one of the attendants. John cautiously approached, his eyes fixed on her. The resemblance was really impressive. The same brown hair, the same face shape, and even the same birthmark on the neck. "Mom?" he called hesitantly and hopefully. The woman quickly turned around, surprised by the boy's voice. Her eyes met John's, full of confusion. "I am Grace, the owner of this bakery. You must be John, right?" she said, recognizing him from the descriptions Mary had given. John stood still, not knowing what to say. Mary, who was nearby, also turned to see what was happening and was surprised to see John inside. "This is John, the boy who is raising money to help his mother," confirmed Mary, approaching. Grace looked more closely at John, still impacted by the coincidence. "You must have mistaken me, kid. There are many similar-looking people in the world, but now that we've met, I would like to know you better and learn more about your story," said Grace, trying to ease the tension in the air. John, still shocked by the resemblance, spoke softly. "You look a lot like my mother. The hair, the face, and even the mark on your neck," he said, pointing to Grace's birthmark. Grace felt even more intrigued. The resemblance was really remarkable. She knelt to be at John's height. "You know, John, sometimes destiny does strange things. Why don't you tell me more about your mother?" Grace suggested, trying to understand the situation better. John took a small photo of his mother from his pocket, the same one he always carried for good luck. He showed it to Grace, who was speechless upon seeing the image. It was like looking in a mirror. "My God, it looks like I'm looking at myself," murmured Grace in disbelief. Mary, who was beside them, was also impressed by the resemblance. "I've never seen anything like this before." "How is this possible?" Mary asked, looking from John to Grace. Grace composed herself and with a gentle smile said to John, "I would love to meet your mother, John. Can we arrange a visit? Maybe we can discover more about this incredible coincidence." John, still a bit stunned, nodded. He felt a mix of emotions, confusion, hope, and curiosity. Maybe this new connection could bring something good for him and his mother. In the following days, Grace and Mary planned a visit to John's house. Everyone was eager to discover more about this surprising resemblance and what it could mean for Chloe and John's future. The anxiety grew in John as he waited for Grace's visit. He had told his mother about the unexpected encounter with the woman who looked so much like her. Chloe, intrigued and a bit nervous, agreed to receive Grace at their home. On the morning scheduled for the visit, Grace arrived in a discreet car. John, who was waiting at the gate, ran to greet her. He guided Grace to the simple but cozy living room where Chloe was anxiously waiting. When Grace entered the room and their eyes met, time seemed to stop. Both stood still, studying each detail of each other's face. It was like looking into a mirror. "This is unbelievable," murmured Chloe, feeling a mix of emotions. "It really is," replied Grace, still processing the situation. John watched attentively, feeling a strange mix of pride and nervousness. He knew this meeting could change everything. Grace sat next to Chloe, and the two began to talk. The physical resemblance was just the beginning. As they talked about their lives, they discovered more coincidences and parallel stories that left them increasingly intrigued. "My father, Antonio, was a man known for his many adventures in his youth. I never knew all of his relationships, but I always had the feeling that I might have more family out there," explained Grace. Chloe nodded, remembering the few details her mother had given about her own father. A man also named Antonio, known for being a ladies' man. "I never knew my father. My mother always said he was a free spirit, impossible to tie down to one place. Maybe there's more here than just a coincidence," said Chloe, feeling a cautious hope forming. Grace, determined to discover the truth, suggested they do a DNA test to confirm their suspicions. Chloe, a bit surprised by Grace's readiness, agreed. She knew this was the only way to solve the mystery hanging over them. "We can go right now. I know a reliable lab that can do the test quickly," said Grace with a resolute look. Chloe agreed, and with John's help, prepared to leave. They got into Grace's car and headed to the lab. On the way, the tension was palpable, but there was also a sense of hope in the air. Arriving at the lab, Grace made the necessary arrangements, and the two women were taken to a collection room. The process was quick and efficient. While waiting for the samples to be collected, Chloe and Grace talked more about their childhoods and the few memories they had of their fathers. "I remember my mother saying, 'My father was always traveling.' She said he had another family, but I never knew if it was true or just a way to justify his absences," said Chloe. Grace nodded, sharing a similar story. "My mother always said my father was a free man. Maybe he took that freedom to the extreme," reflected Grace. The samples were collected, and the two women were informed that the results would come in a few days. The anxiety would now be replaced by the wait. As they left the lab, Grace turned to Chloe. "Regardless of the result, I want to help you. Seeing this resemblance made me feel a special connection, and I believe destiny brought us together for a reason," said Grace with an encouraging smile. Chloe, moved, thanked sincerely. "Regardless of what the result shows, I'm already grateful for everything you've done for us. John and I will never forget your generosity," replied Chloe, holding Grace's hand tightly. Back at Chloe's house, they said goodbye with promises to stay in touch. Grace returned to the bakery with a heart full of emotions and thoughts about what the future would reveal. John, by his mother's side, felt a wave of optimism. Grace's kindness and support had given him and his mother a new hope, and he knew they were on the right path to a better future. The following days, waiting for the DNA test results, were filled with a mix of anxiety and hope. Grace and Chloe felt the tension of the wait, but also took the time to get to know each other better. The physical resemblance was just the tip of the iceberg of a connection that deepened with each conversation. Grace proved to be a caring and dedicated friend. Every day she visited Chloe and John, taking them on outings around the city. They visited parks where John could play and forget, even for a moment, the difficulties they faced. Grace's presence was a welcome relief, a distraction from daily worries. During these outings, Chloe and Grace exchanged childhood stories. Chloe talked about the few memories she had of her mother and the absence of a father. Grace, in turn, talked about Antonio's constant travels and how she always felt something was missing in her life. "I always felt I had a bigger family, but never knew for sure," confided Grace one day. Chloe nodded, feeling a growing affinity with Grace. "I felt that too. My mother always spoke of a lost love, a man who couldn't stay but never gave many details," replied Chloe, looking at the park's horizon. John, although young, understood the importance of these moments. He watched the two women and felt a new hope bloom. Grace's kindness not only helped them financially, but also healed emotional wounds he didn't even know were there. Grace wasn't just limited to conversations. She helped Chloe with household chores and always brought a gift for John, a book, a toy, something that showed her care and attention. She also took Chloe to medical consultations, seeking new opinions on the treatment that could help her regain mobility. Each day, the connection between Chloe and Grace grew stronger. The two women found comfort and strength in each other, creating a relationship that, regardless of the DNA result, seemed destined to last. Finally, the day of the result approached. Anxiety grew again, but this time it was accompanied by a feeling of security. They knew that whatever the result, they had found something valuable, a friendship and new hope for the future. The day for the DNA test results finally arrived. Grace and Chloe were nervous and anxious, but also full of hope. Chloe's small house was silent, except for the sound of their accelerated heartbeats and little John, who felt the tension in the air. Grace arrived early that morning, bringing with her an envelope that could change their lives forever. She entered the house, being received by Chloe and John with tense hugs and smiles. They all sat in the living room around a simple coffee table. Grace looked at Chloe, and the two shared a look of mutual understanding. "Are you ready?" Grace asked, holding the envelope with trembling hands. "Yes, let's open it," replied Chloe with calm determination. Grace opened the envelope slowly, pulling out the paper with the results. Her eyes quickly scanned the lines of technical text, searching for the words that would confirm their suspicions. Finally, she found what she was looking for, and her eyes filled with tears. "Chloe, we are sisters," said Grace, her voice choked with emotion. Chloe let out a deep sigh, as if she had been holding her breath for years. Tears began to roll down her face as she looked at Grace with a mix of joy and disbelief. "We are sisters," Chloe repeated, almost whispering, as if she needed to hear the words aloud to believe them. John, watching the scene, couldn't contain his own emotion. He ran to hug the two women, feeling immense happiness seeing his mother and aunt, now officially sisters, united in a tight embrace. "This is wonderful," exclaimed John, laughing and crying at the same time. Grace, still holding Chloe, looked at John and then at her new sister. "Chloe, don't worry about anything anymore. I will cover all your medical treatments. I want you to have the best possible recovery," declared Grace firmly. Chloe tried to protest, but Grace gently interrupted her. "You are my sister. We are in this together. I have the resources, and I want to use them to help you. Let's start with physical therapy and all other necessary treatments immediately," insisted Grace. Chloe, overcome by her sister's generosity and determination, nodded with tears still streaming down her face. "Thank you, Grace. I don't know how to thank you. This means so much to me and John," said Chloe, holding Grace's hands tightly. The following days were filled with a flurry of activities. Grace took care of all the details, organizing medical consultations, physical therapy, and other necessary treatments for Chloe's recovery. The small house was transformed into a place of hope and renewal, with frequent visits from doctors and specialists. John, now surrounded by the love and support of his mother and aunt, felt more confident and secure than ever. He saw his mother gaining strength and preparing for the treatments with Grace's tireless help. Although Chloe still couldn't take her first steps, hope was alive. She began physical therapy, where healthcare professionals worked to strengthen her muscles and prepare her body for future progress. Each therapy session was a symbolic step towards recovery. The happiness and gratitude filled Chloe and John's hearts as Grace dedicated herself to providing the best life possible for her newly discovered family. They were more than sisters now. They were partners in a journey of healing and hope, ready to face any challenge the future might bring. With Grace's support, Chloe began to see small signs of improvement in her condition. The joy of being surrounded by love and care was evident, and the determination to walk again one day filled her thoughts. The days following the discovery that Grace and Chloe were sisters were filled with plans and changes. Grace, determined to help her new family, decided it was time to take a significant step. One sunny morning, Grace arrived at Chloe and John's house with a proposal that would change their lives forever. "Chloe, John, I've been thinking a lot about all this. I want you to come live with me. My house is big, and there's plenty of space. You will have all the comfort and resources needed for Chloe's recovery and John's future," said Grace with a welcoming smile. Chloe, surprised and emotional, looked at John before responding. "Grace, this is very generous. I don't even know how to thank you." "I don't want to be a burden to you," replied Chloe, still processing the offer. "Chloe, you are my sister. We are family now, and families take care of each other. Besides, John deserves the best opportunities. He can attend one of the best schools in the state if he lives with me, insisted Grace, holding Chloe's hands firmly. John, with eyes shining with hope, looked at his mother. "Mom, please, let's accept. This can change our lives," he pleaded. Chloe, feeling Grace's sincerity and determination and John's enthusiasm, finally agreed. "Okay, Grace, we will accept your generous offer. Thank you for everything," said Chloe, with tears of gratitude in her eyes. On the day of the move, Grace sent a car to pick up Chloe and John. Upon arriving at the mansion, they were impressed by its size and beauty. It was a large, elegant house with well-kept gardens and a welcoming atmosphere. Grace welcomed them with open arms and showed them the rooms that would now be theirs. John was delighted with his new room, equipped with books, toys, and a wonderful view of the garden. "John, you will start at the new school next week. I'm sure you will love it and learn a lot there," said Grace, smiling as she saw the joy in her nephew's eyes. Meanwhile, Chloe began her physical therapy sessions with the best professionals available, thanks to Grace's support. Each day brought new challenges, but also small progress that filled Chloe with hope. One quiet afternoon, while Chloe and Grace were sitting in the garden, Grace decided to reveal something important. "Chloe, there's something I need to tell you. Mary, my employee at the bakery, is actually my daughter. I got pregnant very young and raised Mary alone. I decided to keep her working with me because she always loved baking, and this way I can stay close to her and support her," Grace revealed with a serious tone. Chloe was surprised by the revelation, but also felt deep admiration for her sister. "Grace, you are incredible. Raising a daughter alone and building all this. I can hardly believe it. Mary must be very proud of you," Chloe replied sincerely. "Mary is my strength, and now you and John are also part of this family. We are all in this together," said Grace with an affectionate smile. The days at the mansion became happier and full of hope. John, adapting to the new school, was excelling and making new friends. Chloe, with Grace's constant support and dedication to physical therapy, felt stronger every day. The weeks following the move to Grace's mansion were transformative for Chloe and John. The welcoming environment and constant support made all the difference. Grace, always attentive, ensured that Chloe received the best possible treatment. One morning, during one of the regular consultations with the specialists Grace had hired, there was an unexpected revelation. Dr. Mitchell, a renowned physical therapist, brought good news for Chloe. "Chloe, after reviewing all your exams and following your progress in the physical therapy sessions, we have exciting news. Surgery will not be necessary for your recovery," announced Dr. Mitchell with an encouraging smile. Chloe and Grace, who were at the consultation, looked at him surprised. "Really, doctor? How is that possible?" Chloe asked, her voice trembling with emotion. "Yes, Chloe, your condition can be reversed with intensive and continuous physical therapy. Your body is responding well to the exercises, and with adequate persistence you will be able to walk again," explained Dr. Mitchell. Grace, holding Chloe's hand, her eyes shining with tears of joy. "Chloe, this is wonderful. Let's continue with the physical therapy. You are strong and will succeed," said Grace, full of hope. From that moment on, Chloe's dedication to physical therapy intensified. With the guidance and support of Dr. Mitchell and his team, she underwent daily sessions of rigorous exercises. Chloe's determination and willpower were palpable, and each small progress was celebrated as a great victory. John, always by his mother's side, constantly encouraged her. He saw in her eyes the renewed hope and determination to overcome this battle. Then, on a sunny spring day, something incredible happened. Chloe was in the mansion's physical therapy room, supported by the therapists and by Grace, who always made sure to be present at the most important sessions. Chloe was performing a strengthening exercise when she felt a different strength in her legs. "Come on, Chloe, you can do it. Just one more step," encouraged Dr. Mitchell, observing her every move. Chloe, her heart racing, focused and placed one foot in front of the other. With tremendous effort, she took a step, then another. The silence in the room was broken by applause and shouts of joy. "I am walking! I am really walking!" Chloe said, tears streaming down her face as she took a few more steps, supported by the parallel bars. Grace ran to hug her sister, while John, emotional, watched with a radiant smile. "Mom, you did it! I knew you would!" John exclaimed, running to hug Chloe. The joy of seeing Chloe taking her first steps was immense for everyone. The room was filled with laughter, tears of happiness, and words of encouragement. Chloe's journey was still far from over, but that moment was a significant milestone in her recovery. Grace, holding Chloe tightly, whispered, "I am so proud of you, sister. Let's keep going, one step at a time, until you can walk freely." Chloe, feeling the warmth and love of her family around her, replied, "With you by my side, I know I can overcome anything. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, John. I love you." From that moment on, Chloe's recovery accelerated. Over time, she fully regained her mobility and began to regain her independence. Each achievement was celebrated with enthusiasm by the family, who grew stronger every day. Meanwhile, John excelled at school. He was a diligent and determined student, always seeking to learn and improve. His teachers were impressed with his dedication and intelligence. He became involved in various extracurricular activities, from sports to science clubs, and was an example to his peers. Grace, always present and supportive, was proud to see her family's growth and success. She had created a home full of love, where everyone felt safe and supported. The bakery continued to prosper, and Mary, her daughter, became increasingly involved in the business, demonstrating the talent and passion inherited from her mother. One day, gathered in the mansion's garden, Chloe, Grace, John, and Mary reflected on the journey they had traveled. "We have been through so much, but now we are stronger and more united than ever," said Chloe, looking at her family with gratitude. "And this is just the beginning. We have a bright future ahead, full of possibilities," added Grace, smiling. John, always optimistic, looked at the sky and said, "With you by my side, I know we can conquer anything. Let's keep working hard and supporting each other." Mary agreed, holding her mother's hand. "We are a family, and together we are invincible." The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden light over the garden, symbolizing a new beginning for all of them. The mansion, which had once been just a large house, was now a true home, full of love, hope, and dreams for the future. I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you did, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought about the story. See you